All set.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Call this workshop, right?
Workshop.
Yes, this workshop to order for what's today? Today is June 16th at 5:36 p.m. And we're going over the audit for the town. I guess where should we go?
You want to start off? You want me to start, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They've already heard my whole routine for the last 3 years,
Yeah,
so
right.
they kind of know where we're at.
I think we're you can finally say, you know where we're at.
Wow, that's exciting.
You know, we talked, I think it was before the holidays last year, just we're kind of landing these planes. You know, we talked and basically, for lack of a better word, with the state auditor to come up with an alternative product for you, just knowing that it was going to be not a good use of your resources to go back and try to forensically put that. We didn't see areas of fraud or defalcation or anything like that. We just saw bad math, bad accounting, huge strain on when you saw softwares, you know, so just all the things that led us to believe, move on.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a lot of conversations with the state auditor, qualified the reports, and really we said, let's get into 23 and 24, you know, where the records improved enough to the point where we can put 2 audits in front of you and really kind of focus on the best practices, you know, of the town and have a baseline. And I would say, you're there. You guys got a copy of the management letter that we sent as well. It's not flattering, you know, but that certainly takes the place of the audit that will be submitted once we wrap up the final product for 24. You guys got the short version of it. The actual long version of it for 23 exists too. I just didn't have that time, you know, to go over it. But I would suspect that plan will land in the next week or two. But I can tell you where you're financially at right now. For in the first time, you guys haven't known. So I'd say Ladybug smile on Buckfield. In 2023, you guys had like fund balance of about $1.9 million, you know, and in 2000, it went down a little in 2024, you know, about 200,000 to $1.7 million, because we moved some money around, you know, the money, special reference capital projects, things like that. We basically adjusted the chemistry and moved some of that money to where it was. So we moved some money over to capital projects. You've got like north of $300,000, you know, in your capital project funds. And then you got a little north of $500,000 in your trust funds, you know, for money that was left to the town. But going back to the general fund, you know, your operating budget of about, let's say about $5 million-ish, which includes like education. We like to see you at 30, 60, 90 days of that. So about 425, 450, 900, about $1.3 million at 90 days. I'd actually say in this day and age, 120 strong, a $1.5 million. You got about $1.7 million. So I don't think you've traditionally used any money to kind of like assess where you guys are at financially. You've got probably easily $200,000 or $300,000 to either move into capital, use for tax relief, you know, down the road, and certainly other things to really kind of help people out in Buckfield if that's what you choose. We'd like to still see it at 90 to 120 days, but clearly, if you guys wanted to use some of that money, you know, now going forward in future budgets, probably got $300,000 to $400,000. Certainly trying to see where this plane lands at 6/30/25. You know, with all the indications are actually that's we kind of looked into that crystal ball. You're pretty strong. You're 90 days to 120 days strong. You know, here in Buckfield where the math is. Now it's just more of just kind of letting the dust settle on some of these taxes and just other accounts that we spend a lot of time reconciling, a lot of time in the past reconciling, you know, wrote off some things here, you know, in Buckfield that we just don't think were real, more transition ghosts, you know, that we call. But the first time you got a blueprint from 24 going into 25, you got 23, 24 audits, and we can now say we're current, you know, in the town of Buckfield and financially. Sure.
Wow.
That's really the good news, and that's kind of what we told you guys last year, looking at that crystal ball. No fraud, defalcation, you know, nothing of, you know, misuse of funds, more bad, just bad accounting, as you can see with that letter.
Yep.
So a lot of the spinoff, which I've talked to them about too, is the general ledger that I've told you about a million times is like all over the place. And I think that was one of the things you had said to me. At one point, she was like, "Why do you have 3 accounts for this when it can all be in one account?" And so there's little things that need to be.
But one of the things that we would recognize, we don't want to just spring a $20,000 bill
Yeah.
on like your other auditor did.
Yep.
And that's no way to have a relationship. So, so we go, Cameron, we would get you through 24, 25, reassess, and that's really where you're at right now. You've got the blueprint really to reassess, and as Cameron says with your general ledger, bring that back into line. You've got something now we can reel back in. We know where the problems are. The big problems, a lot of those have been fixed. So now it's just more of housekeeping, and you've got the blueprint to housekeep first time.
Yep.
So real bank record.
Yeah, real bank records, yeah. So that's really kind of where the energy we focus on now is cleaning up that GL. We can talk to Cameron about what that path forward looks like, but 25 is there, you get the blueprints, and now 26, you're in a new fiscal year for the first time. You can say, hey, we got about $1.7 million going in. We got 120 days of fund balance going into our fiscal year. Something you can physically put your hand on.
Yeah.
So,
I actually think Buckfield's current policy, because I read something in here about the fund balance policy.
yeah,
They do have one,
yeah,
and I believe it's 60 days.
yeah.
So judging by what you said, 90 to 100.
You've got some discretion, but before you use it all, actually, I suggest you probably take a look at that fund balance policy. Capitals, something you probably desperately want to put some, look at hard. You've got like 14 or 15 areas that you look at with different highway, fire, reserves, like that. That's an area you definitely want to look at. Just make sure you're light on, and then once those are addressed, then I've seen what's left.
Just thinking maybe you
The
guys.
good news is you got money.
Yeah.
We don't have money. And it's in the bag.
My thought process was maybe it's time for them to update that into something a little more current.
Like I said, finally have something you can, it's one thing when your house is dirty, now your house is clean. So at least you've got the product now with that GL. Looking at, now that you know how much money you have, where is it? What's it? Those are the types of things you can find in that work. So, a lot of hard work.
Well.
Scan documents.
Sorry to interrupt. Our guest is projecting really well, but if we could get him mic'd up, I think that would maybe help some of our folks listening at home and maybe those who are hard of hearing.
I was Mike, but apparently I wasn't close enough to I'm holding it.
You're good. You're good. No, I can hear you for the most part. It's just a few moments that have kind of
Really?
echoed. Thank you, Cam.
Can you hear me now? There we go.
Well, figure that one.
Is that one any better?
Is this any better?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
I didn't give it to you on.
Oh, sorry.
So how much of
So
it?
as far as the and forgive me if I get some of these terms wrong, but getting like the general ledger accounts in order, did we make any moves to remedy that this budget season, or is it something we'll be working on into the next budget?
Is that a question for me or Cameron?
That would be, I think, a question for Cameron and the rest of the board.
So that's the plan moving forward, but obviously
Okay.
I need to explore what that cost is going to be to get the help to do that. So what I'm doing right now is, as long as I maintain what I'm already doing, you know what I mean? As far as if I don't start changing things up, at least I'll know where everything is.
You've got the blueprint now. Before you had rabbit holes, before, and if you go down one, it could take you off into 10 places. Those don't exist now. I mean, we've got it narrowed down to areas, that we can look at. Taxes is, certainly one, and, probably one of your biggest ones. You got some liabilities, a little messy the way that they were set up and how things got posted, but you know where your areas are now, whereas before you didn't have that blueprint.
Yeah,
And I know
that's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Cam was working hard on cleaning that up anyway.
Yeah. So we can talk to Cameron over the next week and, come up with a plan, and he can bring it back to you all.
Yeah. We've had a lot of transition over the last.
I'll tell you, listen, I don't think anybody wants to go back. That's for
No.
sure. At least for the first time now, you can say you're moving forward. So can't be fun sitting in your guy's chair and not being able to say how much money you got, really, and where it is, more importantly.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, this is fantastic news, really. I mean, We get a lot of questions on it. We have,
Since you and I were on the board together,
yeah.
that was a long time ago.
Now you got answers. Like I said, you got a starting point. There's still some stuff to clean up, but imagine 2-3 years ago, we did that. This was wishful thinking.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think there's definitely been a lot of like uncertainty and distrust surrounding these sort of things and the old ways of bookkeeping. So I'm really grateful for your help.
And as you said, is that old ways, not using, your software the way it was meant to be used, set up properly. And like I say, now out with the old and with the new.
Yeah.
So with the accounting system. So.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
I was just wondering, you deal with other towns.
We do 2/3 of all of them in the entire state of
Yeah.
Maine.
So
Wow.
how do we, how's it look? Are we,
How do you compare?
yeah,
You
Just
talking about
update.
now or 4
Percentile.
years ago? Now or 4 years ago? Which story do you want? Financially, I'd put you right up there, above average, financially. As far as your struggles, believe it or not, I'd put you into 25% to 30% of all the Maine municipalities. They were struggling like Buckfield. You got some municipalities are 12 and 13 years behind in arrears and audits right now. I could shock you, and go on and on about how ugly our state is and the world of government, schools, another big area of ugliness. But financially, you're right up there, and above average financially. So that's the good news. As far as your practices, I mean, I'd argue you're with 1/3 of all the other municipalities that were struggling through transition, through turnover, just through many, things with government. But I always say that's the percentile you don't want to be compared to, for sure. So,
Mhm.
thank you.
4 years ago, that's where we were.
yeah, that's why I say it's a tale of two cities now. Whew.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
refreshing.
that's great to hear.
Refreshing to hear. Yeah.
I want to thank you guys. You guys are great to work with.
Likewise. It's nice is, the nice thing is you guys acknowledge, for lack of a better word, the sins and where you were and realize what you needed to do to deal there. And that was some tough changes just right there, raising your hand and saying, we can't do this anymore. That's really where it all started about 3 or 4 years ago. So here we are, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of audits too. They got made up fast. So.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Anything else? I know these guys have a long drive.
We got a long drive tomorrow. We're heading to Aroostook County tomorrow. That's Kyle.
Wow.
Nice day. Well, it's gonna rain tomorrow?
I don't even know.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
you're in the car, who cares?
We get some quality time to spending some time together ourselves after her being gone for 2 months. I've missed her. So,
Well, I hope it doesn't rain because I have a playoff game. So
yeah, good luck with that.
thank you.
So you have no questions of us. Listen, this is a good day. We'll look forward to continue to work with you guys and stay current. And, it'll be nice to be sitting, with you guys later on this fall, talking about 25,
Yeah.
really, and landing that plane. That's a good day for Buckfield. So,
Mhm.
and we can
Absolutely.
talk with Karen about a plan of action, for Karen, and Cameron can have a conversation about what we do, kind of some services to help him clean some things up. And like I say, at least we know what to clean up now.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
I mean, I've read through the thing, so
What's
I
that?
said I've read through the thing and gone cross-eyed 6 times, but
Hey, financially, that's good news. Like, call it whatever you want. At least financially, you know where you are.
Yeah, well, we really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you all. Any follow-up questions, just let us.
We will.
Everybody take care.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
All right.
So it's been a long road.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the fact that I now know what to expect when we go through these things, because it was literally one after another after another. First couple were obviously rough. The second, the 2 from the years that I started were relatively easy. They'd ask me for documents. I'd know where they were.
where they were, right?
Right.
The 2 messy years were the ones that it was like, you open up a file box and you just try to figure out what it was. But, seeing numbers on paper and like he said, knowing where we're at, I
Yeah.
think we're in a much better boat than we were when all of you got started
Mhm.
a few years ago. So,
Absolutely. And it's comforting to have some expert eyes on the whole situation as well, here to help guide us through all this.
right. And you heard it from him, not me.
Right.
Well, if you guys don't have any other questions of me, I recorded this. I didn't get it up on Facebook, but I'll upload it over to YouTube and then put a link on the page. The computer shut down and everything got all screwy. So,
No, no worries. Yeah. And if anyone's watching this back later and you have some particular questions, our inboxes are open. We'll be happy to reach out to our HR or investigate any questions folks may have.
And tomorrow night's meeting was rescheduled to the,
following 25th.
yes.
It'll be Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, Wednesday,
Um,
25th.
And I extended the paving RFP until then too, because there were people that were gonna come and watch you guys open up the bids. So I extended it out to the meeting so that they can be here then.
Great.
Sounds good.
All right. It
All right. Well,
was great seeing you all.
all right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
All right, Isaiah, have a good night.
Take care, guys.